Summit for Human Rights and Democracy. My name is Hillel Neuer. I'm the Executive Director of UN Watch. We are one of the 20 human rights NGOs that is co-sponsoring today's event. The others are Collectif Urgence Darfur, Darfur Peace and Development, Directorio Democrático Cubano, EndIgnorance.org, Free the North Korean Gulag, Freedom in Rome, Uganda, Freedom Republic Foundation, Human Rights Foundation, Human Rights Without Frontiers, Ingénieurs du Monde, Initiatives for China, Inter-African Committee on Traditional Practices for Health of Women and Children, the International Federation of Liberal Youth, Justice for North Korea, Ligue Internationale contre le Racisme, Stop Child Executions, Tibetan Women's Organization of Switzerland, the Uyghur World Congress, Viet Tan, and the Zimbabwe Advocacy Office. We are delighted to see so many of you who have come from near and far. I know we have people who have come from, we have speakers who have come from Pakistan, from Cuba, from Kazakhstan, from many faraway places. We have guests and friends who have come from Canada, journalists who have come here from Stockholm, from Prague, from Berlin, from around the world. We're especially honored and wish to pay tribute to the many diplomatic missions that will be participating here today at the level of ambassador, permanent representative to the United Nations, and their colleagues. We have the missions from Belgium, from Bosnia, Bulgaria, Colombia, El Salvador, Germany, Hungary, Israel, Jordan, Korea, the Netherlands, San Marino, the United States, Spain, Monaco, and others. We meet today only days before world leaders, presidents, foreign ministers, and other dignitaries will be gathering across the street to open the annual session of the United Nations Human Rights Council. This is the principal international body charged by the United Nations with promoting and protecting human rights. And today, our call is for the international community to hear the voices of the victims. And we have some incredible, courageous champions of human rights who will be speaking today. Now, at the Council, which will meet for a month, we have had some action on Iran. A few years ago, an investigator, a special rapporteur was created who reports on violations, but we need much more attention to this urgent situation. And we're delighted that with us here is Marina Nemat, who will speak later in our first panel, the author of Prisoner of Tehran, and will tell us what we need to know, what the world needs to know about what's happening in Iran and what the UN needs to be doing. We've had some action here, each year, an annual resolution on North Korea, where there's a gulag of prison camps that have been subjugating hundreds of thousands of people. And we hope this session will see a commission of inquiry. And to put the spotlight, we have two of the most famous survivors and witnesses of the North Korean concentration camps, Dong-Hook Shin and Chol-Won Kang, will be telling us what the world needs to know about North Korea. We've had some attention on sexual violence in the Congo, some reports, but not enough. And to focus attention on that, we'll have Colette Breckman, journalist with Le Soir from Belgium, author of many books on sexual violence in the Congo, including a recent volume focusing on this urgent issue, which is affecting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of women. But then there are so many other situations that have not been addressed in any significant way at all. We have Pakistan, which was just elected as a member of the Human Rights Council. There's never been attention on Pakistan. We have Mukhtar Mai, who was gang raped 10 years ago and went on to create a women's rights center to educate women and to help victims of rape and other crimes. And she'll be telling us what we need to know about Pakistan. Mauritania, it's just become vice president of the Human Rights Council. According to The Guardian, there are hundreds of thousands of slaves in Mauritania. And we have here today Abedin Merzoug, a longtime activist against slavery in Mauritania, and he will tell us what we need to know about slavery in Mauritania. China just came off the Human Rights Council because of term limits. They'll be back next year. The situation in Tibet remains urgent as ever. There has never been a resolution yet on China, and that's why today we have Dickey Choyang, cabinet member of the Central Tibetan Administration, who will be telling us what's going on in Tibet, why it's happening, and what needs to happen to change that urgent situation. In Cuba, another country that has been a regular member of the Council, just came off because of term limits. There's not been any attention to Cuba, no resolution yet on Cuba. And we have two incredible individuals who will be speaking. Regis Iglesias Ramirez, who was an Amnesty International prisoner of conscience for 7 years. He will be speaking to us today. And not on our program, because it was something we didn't know would happen, is Rosa Maria Paya, the daughter of Oswaldo Paya, who was killed in a car accident, a very curious, mysterious car accident this year, the famous dissident Oswaldo Paya. His daughter has just arrived from Cuba. It's the first time we've ever had someone that we've invited from Havana who's been allowed to come here, and so we're very excited to hear from her about what's happening in that island. Kazakhstan just elected to the Human Rights Council. There's been serious oppression happening there. We're going to hear from one of its most famous dissidents, Lukpan Akhmedyarov, a journalist who was stabbed 8 times this year because he dared to speak out on the situation there. Russia, another regular member that just had to come off for 1 year of the Council, is never been the focus of any resolution. And of course, you've all heard of the famous Pussy Riot case, this feminist rock band that performed in a cathedral to protest Putin and were thrown in prison. And we're thrilled that the husband of Nadia is here with us today, Pyotr Verzalov, also part of their effort. And he will be speaking to us today about his wife who's sitting in jail because she dared to criticize the president of Russia. Finally, we'll hear from a young Moroccan human rights activist who is an atheist, and as a result, he's been subjected to death threats, and he continues to courageously speak out. And to summarize all of our proceedings, we'll hear from John Suarez from Directorio Cubano, a longtime colleague of ours at these summits, who will summarize our message to the international community for action. I do want to acknowledge the presence of the Ambassador of Canada, Alyssa Goldberg, who's been a terrific supporter of all of our work to promote universal human rights. And I want to thank her and her government for their help. Before I call on our first speaker, I'll just remind everyone that those who are tweeting, we'll remind you throughout the day on the screen. The Twitter handle for the summit is Geneva Summit, and the hashtag is GS13. So I encourage all of you to tweet. The YouTubes of the lectures will be put online very quickly, as well as photos and an ongoing blog. You can see it on our Facebook page and on genevasummit.org. We'll have time just for a few questions and answers at the end of each panel. You'll be able to write your questions on a piece of paper, give it to one of our many volunteers who've come from near and far. We have volunteers who've come from Germany to be with us here today, young students. You'll give your questions to the ushers, and we will try to get them before the panel, but there's no guarantee that we'll have time for that. Our first speaker is the chair of UN Watch, as someone who's been an ardent supporter of this human rights conference, has encouraged us in every way. He's a prominent attorney, the former U.S. ambassador, former special presidential emissary to the conflict in Cyprus. Was recently awarded an honorary doctorate by Georgetown University for his life's work, public service, and support for human rights. And we're honored to invite our friend and chair, Mr. Ambassador Alfred H. Moses.